Welcome into the 7-round mock draft for the Baltimore Ravens, one of the best drafting football teams in the NFL, right up there with the Eagles in my opinion. Look, let's go ahead and get into it, see if I can kind of do even close to what the Ravens seem to consistently be able to do, especially in those early rounds. All right, let's go ahead and see where the Ravens are going to land in the first round, 27th overall. Who's going to fall to them? There's always a name. Always a top name that falls to the Ravens, and yeah, this is interesting. This is interesting. So Gray Zabel, who I would have considered, goes one pick ahead. That's probably the best guard on the board, which we do need guard. We had a guard go over to the Jacksonville, so that's the only starting piece that we're missing that wasn't really immediately addressed in the offseason or in the free agency. Excuse me, Tyler Booker, right there. Now, this is about his range as well. I like that spot for him. I think Zabel would have been the better choice, but Booker's an interesting name. The thing is, there's enough names down the board that I think we can find somebody in the second round if we want to address that. We probably have to address it sooner rather than later if we want to expect him to start day one, and we don't have somebody that is clearly replacing that guard that we lost. Maybe I'm not a Ravens fan, so I don't know deep down the depth chart. Maybe there's a guy that everyone's super excited about that I just haven't heard about or I'm not super aware of. As far as what I think the Ravens would do, James Pierce Jr. doesn't quite fit what I feel like the Ravens want. They like a bigger edge rusher that can do a lot of different things. That's a Nick Scorton. Nick Scorton would absolutely be in play here. I love him as a late first-round guy. I really do. I think I like him better than James Pierce Jr. anyway, to be honest with you, but I like those bigger guys. I really do. I think I'm going to go Nick Scorton. I haven't drafted Nick Scorton a ton, and I've been doing a ton of these 7-round mocks. Nick Scorton, I think, fits the scheme, fits a need that the Ravens have. We're going to go with that. Great player, big, physical, explosive defensive end out of Texas A&M. Did a lot of really good things there for him. Look, man, Quinshon Judkins staring you in the face at the end of the second round. That's tough to say no to. Addressing tight end, Arroyo is a guy who, man, I mean, does that make a lot of sense or does that make a lot of sense? Obviously, feels like the Mark Andrew days are nearing an end. There's shades of Isaiah Likely in this guy, so do we want to add, another guy that fits that role? I wouldn't have a problem with it at all. Pass catching tight end is definitely a value. Mark Andrews, good player. He's gonna have his redemption arc after that drop. I know that was a big play, but even beyond that, he had the injury last year. It does feel like we're nearing the end of the Mark Andrew era in Baltimore, which is crazy because he was drafted. I think was it the same draft as I think it was the same draft as Lamar. Did they draft Hayden Hurst and Lamar, or Hayden Hurst then Lamar and then Mark Andrews in like the third or fourth? Yeah, could have. I believe so. So, Lamar's been there for a while. That's the 2017 draft, I think. All right, I'm going way off topic. Apologies. Shamir Turner, another guy. I'd hate to add just the entire Texas A&M roster, but he's a guy that would fit the Ravens in this range. Another guy who is, multiple. You can do a lot of different things with him. I think he has a lot of value. I think Demetrius Knight Jr. would be a name if you wanted to add linebacker. I don't feel like we need linebacker for this team. The Ravens have some pieces there. Interior offensive line was a position that I told you I was worried about. Told you I wanted to address. We have some names here. Tate Ratledge would probably be my top pick here, and I do think he's a plug-and-play starter. I do. If we wanted to go wide receiver, Trey Harris is still on the board, and he's not going to be on the board much longer. That is a tough choice. A lot of names here that I really like. A lot of positions that make a lot of sense. Benjamin Morrison, another pick. Man, the second round is loaded for this class. Absolutely loaded. Wherever we go with it. Josiah Stewart, he doesn't fit. He doesn't fit what the Ravens would do. He's just too small, I think. I don't think the Ravens would take a guy like that. Could be wrong, but I just don't think so. Man, really, really interesting spot of the draft. Really interesting needs here. I think, when have the Ravens ever just gone for need? And I'm going to say Wyatt Milam is I have him behind Tate Ratledge, but in this, he's a guard. This is a guard. We have some guards, some tackles that can go to guard. Again, like I said, it does feel like you want to go earlier rather than later because this is a position that we need to be a day one starter. I'm going to pass on it. I'm going to bet on being able to grab the guard later in this draft, and I'm going to grab the extra receiver. I'm going to grab Trey Harris. I believe in this. I think this is about his floor as far as where he'd get drafted. I think he's definitely, early first or late first, would be early, obviously. I mean, I don't think I've seen him mocked there at all. It would be bold, but I do like him enough that I think there's a team out there that's going to value him as like a top 3 receiver, top 4 receiver in this class, taking out the Travis Hunter conversation. Who knows? All right, let's go ahead and take Trey Harris. I think it fits a really big need, and there is a quote from Eric DeCosta talking about how big of a need that particular position is, or not how big of a need, talking about the fact that they don't have a guy that is a true X, right? I think he can be a very valuable one. I honestly, as a fan of Trey Harris, I would hate it just because he would go to a team with so many weapons and so many ways to move the ball down the field that he wouldn't be a hyper-targeted type of guy that I want him to be to prove how good I think he is. But wherever he lands, I think he's going to be a good player and fit into a role on an offense. All right, let's go ahead, look at 91. I know that was a long transition there. 91 overall. Cameron Williams could maybe move inside. Let's see. None of them? Okay, Wyatt Millham held out. We're going to have to take the guard here. He's going to transition to guard. Another guard in the third round. I think that's kind of just we had to address that position group. And then we have a couple picks in the fourth. Now, cornerback is kind of a need for them. Mello Dotson's a name that I like. Quincy Riley's explosive. Not the strongest guy in the world, but I think he'd be able to keep up with some of the speed that's in that division. I think I'm going to go ahead and take Mello Dotson here. I don't have a great feel for where the Ravens would want to go in this range. I like Mello Dotson. I think he has a real chance to be a man-to-man press corner in the NFL. He's got the size. He's got the play strength. The pure explosiveness, I think, is why he's in this range. I don't think he has that type of game break. Like, he can't just keep up with everybody. I think he's going to have to win with technique, win with playing the game at a high level, intellectually speaking. But he's got enough, and he's got the size, and he definitely has the press man skills there. That intrigued me enough to go and take him in this range. And then with our second pick in the fourth round, there's a name that I have linked to the Ravens, that I've thought about for the Ravens in this range for a while. He is still on the board. Johnny Cornelius. I might be mispronouncing that first name, but I think I got the second name right. The last, also known as last name. I'm kind of a dumbass. Look, he just has the size and I think he's got the pieces. All right, he's got the tools. Let's click on him here. How big is this dude? 6'5", 315. Big-bodied, powerful blocker. That's exactly what I was thinking. He's got pieces of that, solid gap scheme. Ronnie Stanley-ish, very-ish on that, but I think there's elements to him. There's shades of it. I think we're going to go with this. I think we're going to add a tackle. Again, this is a depth pick. This is a pick that doesn't immediately start by any means, but those are the type of players that go in that range of the draft, and there's a ton of value in taking those type of players because, this is how great teams stay great, right? They draft for need in advance. They develop. They're not scared of coaching. These are the things that teams like the Ravens do at a really high level. So I'm trying. That was my attempt to make a Ravens level move. All right, I'm trying to be smarter than what I normally am in general, and that's pretty much the Ravens in a nutshell. All right, and as we get to the last pick in the fifth round, look, this is where we get into depth, guys. I guess we started the depth conversation a little early with our fourth round pick at tackle. I like that move a lot. Running back, definitely going to be interesting to me. Obviously, Derrick Henry. We're not going to find Derrick Henry level guy. We're not going to try and replace Derrick Henry. That's not a realistic thing that can happen. But I'd like to grab a guy that I think is just a good overall player. Jordan James, Kyle Monangai, both names that I love in this range. I absolutely love in this range. I think I'm going to follow the PFF board. Let's wait because we have 183. We're going to grab one of these guys with our next pick. All right. I think we'll break it down once we get there, but I'll talk about both of them in just a second. Let's look at a different position. We haven't gone interior. I don't think there's any tight ends that I really care to look at. I'm sure the Ravens are way farther along in the tight end conversation than I am. I have about 7 or 8 guys that I've watched, and I kind of have a limit after the third or fourth round at tight end. I'm just not super familiar with, and I don't want to bullshit you guys. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Every name that I've talked about, I have researched and I've watched and I've actually had a real opinion on, but I don't have a real opinion on every single name that's 176 and on in this draft. So let's just be real here. As looking at the interior defensive lineman, Zeke Biggers, man, that's a good name for him. He's huge, probably going to fit in as a nose tackle. Not really much of a pass rusher. How big is this dude? Because he's giant human being. Yeah, 6'6", 320. This is one of those guys that jumped off the screen. I'm a Florida State fan, so I watched the Florida State Seminoles play this man, and he's just a giant human being. And I was like, And I looked him up, and yeah, I wasn't exactly sure what the grade would be on him, but to me, big. This is saying he's a true nose tackle. Ravens can figure it out for him, but I'd love to get just a guy who can be a bigger presence. And if he's a backup nose tackle for the Ravens, I don't think I hate that at all. So let's get a bigger guy fit in on that defensive line. Kyle Monangai did go. That is okay. Where are we at? So Jordan James still here. So just to talk about both of them, Kyle Monangai, I heard somebody say he's built like a fire hydrant. Love that explanation for him. He's a smaller guy, but he doesn't run like it, man. He has a little bit, it's the same school, so it's always funny to say, a little bit of that Isaiah Pacheco just run through a wall type of mentality, right? He's angry at the ground when he runs, like somebody spit in his sister's face and he's going to finish the job. Like that's the type of guy that he is. That's how he runs. Love the player. Huge fan. Like he's going to be available in this range. He's not the most explosive guy. He's not physically impressive in any specific way, but just a good hard-nosed running back that has a good feel for the game, sees the game very well, and I thought played really hard. Also super productive at Rutgers. Jordan James, who's going to be our pick, didn't have the 40 that I expected. I thought he was a little bit faster watching him. Pretty much felt that way about almost every single Oregon player that's come out like the past 2 years. So it must just be the jerseys. I don't know what it is. They just look fucking fast, and then they go to the combine and they don't run quite as fast. But again, this dude just kind of has it all. I think he's a solid rotational running back in the NFL. I've done a draft profile on both of these guys, by the way. So if you want to go and hear like detailed thoughts on who these guys are, you can go check that out. And looking here, I don't know where I want to go. We added Jordan James to threaten Justin Hill for that RB2 role. I think we could absolutely go another offensive lineman, Mike Frazier. And there's no way he falls here. All right, we'll take another offensive lineman just to kind of fill out, I think, a position that the Ravens are going to have to reinforce. And then let's go defensive line again, same kind of thought. Let's reinforce a position. Again, the Ravens are in a good spot. They can kind of go a lot of different ways. We don't have a ton of holes at this point that I feel like we have to address. And again, this is always the range where in these mocks, I want to talk about positions, and I want to talk about what the Ravens can be this year. And when I talk about the Ravens, they can be a Super Bowl team. All right, I think we added the wide receiver piece. All right, we added Trey Harris, so we have a complete 1, 2, 3 at wide receiver that I absolutely love. We still have our 2 tight ends. Our offensive line reinforced with a couple guards that we drafted, but overall, we didn't lose too much else on that offensive line. Re-signed Ronnie Stanley, drafted a tackle that has a little bit of that Ronnie Stanley vibe, so he might be able to develop into a starter down the line. And then on the defense, yeah, look, our defensive line needed some reinforcement. We did that. We did that with our first pick. We did that again just now in the 6th round. And we did that in the 5th round too. So we've added pieces everywhere. Cornerback, the other big question. We've added 2 cornerbacks. Where else do we need to go? What position do the Ravens really need? Where are you nervous? Ravens are going to compete in every single game. They're going to come down to the wire in every single game, and it's just okay. Yeah, you're going to face some good teams. You got to play the Bengals twice a year. Don't worry about scoring points, but worry about them scoring points. You're going to have to face the Chiefs. You're going to have to face the Bills. It's a rough road, but again, the window is wide open for the Baltimore Ravens. It's going to be wide open as long as Lamar Jackson is who he is, and as long as Eric DeCosta, I think a really good GM, is who he is. So I said all that to say we're going to take a wide receiver, just a depth wide receiver. I don't know how much longer Rashad Bateman's going to be there. A little bit of I don't want to say a bust, but a first-round pick that has not lived up to the hype of what a first-round pick usually is in the NFL. Still a good player and good piece to an offense, but not the guy I think they were hoping they were getting when they drafted him. Looking at this class overall, man, and I kind of already talked about everything. I don't know that I really need to go back over all of it, but the great class, great football team. I really think, just to kind of go down the position group, I think if the Ravens don't go guard in the first round, they got to go guard on day 2. So that was kind of my thought process. That's why I was thinking it. I really think Trey Harris is in play for the Ravens. I really do. That's a name that I have linked to the Ravens for no other reason, but I think it makes sense. Okay, I don't know anything. I'm not heard anything, but I like that combination. I like that fit. And Nick Scorton, another name that just fits with like a true defensive end that can play on the line and be a defensive end and be kind of a wrecker on that D line. Ravens like to do a lot on those fronts. All right, they have a lot of multiple fronts. They want to have guys that can, be big, physical, and also have the explosiveness. I think Nick Scorton has a good blend of both. Harmon was definitely a conversation there. Obviously, we talked about that. Going down the line, you got to get another corner. Again, the cornerback room is okay. We drafted a corner in the first round last year. Hopefully he can develop into the guy we want him to be, but I think we have to have depth. And Mello Dotson, name that's depth. And then we grabbed another depth piece at tackle that I think, again, another guy, just he's in my head as a Raven. I think he's going to have to develop. He's not going to start. We don't want him to start the first season. But, yeah, just has that look of a gap scheme, big, just don't worry about this man because this man is taken care of type of guy, right? I love that, man. And look, Ryan Stanley is just fun to watch. Those types of tackles are just fun to watch. They just are. Moving down the line, grabbed us a running back, grabbed us a big interior defensive lineman that I think fits what the Ravens would like at like that nose tackle, shade. Wherever you want. He can't play all over the D-line, but anywhere between the A gaps essentially is where you would line him up, and he's going to be a good piece there, I think. And then down the line, it's all depth pieces that we're not going to overly think about, right? I mean, we got a corner, we got another interior guy, we got an interior on both sides actually, and then a wide receiver. We got some guys that can go against each other in camp on the tail end of day 3. That to me is a Ravens draft, especially in the first round. It was first couple rounds. It was very connected to what I think the Ravens would be. All right, I've repeated myself one too many times. I am done. I know I talk too much. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Peace.